Hey everybody! Well, if you're watching this after the fact, after the live feed goes through, um, I definitely want to say welcome to my channel. This is a Q&A, questions and answers, where I'm inviting you, my audience, to ask me questions. Now, if you miss the live feed and you don't get to um, ask a question during the live feed, in the comment section down below, please feel free to leave a comment or a question, anything that you're curious about, and I will do my absolute best to get you a good answer, um, and that kind of thing. So this video today is going to have a lot of back to Eden gardening or sheet mulching or permaculture content. So if you want to know why I'm doing what I'm doing, what the whole idea of it is, um, all that stuff, how to do it, whatever the questions happen to be, definitely you want to watch this video. As of right this minute, there's nobody here. So I am I've been gotten a lot of questions. Uh, Back to Eden gardening. Why the heck are you covering your property in wood chips? And I've gotten that question a lot, and not just from YouTube and from Facebook and all that kind of social media, but from just neighbors and people I come in contact with, and just random people I start talking to about what it is that I'm doing, and the question always comes up: why? Why would you do that? They just don't understand. They don't. It doesn't click. They don't get it. Why? Why would you do that? I get that all the time, and it's simple. The answer is quite simple, but there's multiple parts to that answer. Um, Usually, how it comes up is I will. Well, for instance, yesterday I was talking to a guy, and he's a neighbor of mine, and he's out mowing his lawn, and he was out there mowing the lawn for, gosh, probably like 3 or 4 hours. I mean, the guy was out there for a long, long time, and he mowed, so it was really long, and he mowed it, and then he lowered his lawnmower and he mowed it again. And he goes to change his bag, and I walk up to him and I'm like, all right, seriously, why do you like this grass so much? Oh, it gives me something to do. The kids can come out and play on it. There's all kinds of reasons, but those are the answers that he basically gave me. And I says, okay, so what about the hours you spend mowing that lawn? The hours. Every week you have to, during the summer and spring and fall, you're mowing it, you're raking it, you're all this energy you're spending on this property, not to mention the money for fertilizers and water and disposing of the grass and all this kind of stuff. But that's a lot of time. Have you thought about, I don't know, covering it in wood chips and getting rid of the grass altogether? And he's like, no, God, that's not for me. That's silly. So I was like, all right, I get that. You know what? I get that. But wood chips are great because the kids can play on them too. And I'm not saying it's for everybody, but you know that they're easy to walk on, and it's a great place. I mean, you go back in well, not now. Now they use rubber or sawdust basically underneath playgrounds. But at one point in time, wood chips is what they used underneath playgrounds and play sets. And kids play on them. And I've heard so many times where people say, "Oh, well, you don't want to play on the wood chips. You don't want the kids on those. They're gonna hurt themselves. What happens if this, that, blah, blah." I'm like, "Are you kidding?" When I was a kid, we'd go to the playground, and it was just wood chips, and I'm fine, you know. So you come in every few years and you have to, put down some fresh ones. But, and then, it's like putting money in the bank. You put them down, and then over time, as they decompose and they rot and feed the soil underneath, it makes the soil more nutrient dense. And when you go to plant your plants in, it's basically like every time it rains, you're giving them compost tea. And so, anyways, I was talking to him, and then it just brings me back to, why I do it. Well, there's some reasons there, but I guess the biggest reason is we're all getting old. We're all going to die eventually, and we're all going to get to the point where we can't bend over anymore to pull weeds, or we can't till the soil because we don't have enough strength in our body to be able to run the rototiller. All these different things. And the more I do it and research it and think about it and go down that path, the more I realize that we are getting old, and eventually I cannot do those things. I can barely do those things now. To move these wood chips that I get, this has been a real feat. I can move a load about every 4 days, but in between I am in severe pain. I have fibromyalgia and radiation poisoning from being cancer, fighting that crud with that stuff. So, yeah, I know I'm going to get worse as time goes on. And I saw this guy, Paul Gauci, probably about, I want to say it was probably about 6 years ago for the first time. And I watched, I didn't even get to see the documentary. I just watched a video of this guy walking through his property and him talking to a tour. And it just dawned on me. It's like, this makes perfect sense. We have gardeners, we have tilled the soil and worn out shovels, especially as being a kid and that kind of stuff. I mean, we have put in long hours to aerate and fluff up the soil just so we can get, our spade into it or trowel or whatever and be able to plant and garden. And then, you know just as well as I do, 2 weeks after you've put your rows of whatever in, your seeds, all of a sudden they're being overtaken by weeds. The weeds just instantly, boom, and they grow. They go crazy. And it's this constant work. Now, I'm okay with having constant work, but to have everything you do undermined and to be basically told by Mother Nature, no, quit doing that, I want my soil covered. I mean, it's basically what it's saying. I don't know, lots and lots of research, I've been wanting to do this style of gardening for years, and I just haven't had the property, haven't had the place to do it. And now I have gotten to a place where I now have the property, I have the land, I have the place to do it. And I want to get everything done this year as far as getting the wood chips down, so that way when the winter comes, the fall, that kind of stuff, and the water comes, this stuff will start breaking down and feed the soil. So the next year, when it is time to start planting my garden, all I gotta do is pull the wood chips back, put my plants in or my seeds in, and just be done. Not have to do the rototilling, the fertilizing, and all that kind of stuff. I can tell you all the reasons why I did it, but gardening is definitely an independent thing. It is a thing that is very personal to everybody who does it. This just happens to be what I'm doing, my style. This is what seems to have made sense to me. And I saw this and I'm just like, oh, a light bulb went off. You know, ever since I was probably about 8 years old, I've been gardening in our house or in our property when I was a kid. I took over my mom's vegetable garden because she had severe arthritis and couldn't walk and couldn't, maintain the garden anymore. And it was either I do it or we don't do it. And my mom used to be a huge canner, just used to can everything that came out of the garden, and that was a big food source for us. And so, yeah, gardening is just it's a personal thing. It's an independent personal thing between you and your land. And this just happens to be what I've chosen over the years to do. However, the thing is, it's quite simple. Gardening is an evolution process, constantly evolving, constantly moving, constantly changing, constantly learning from your mistakes and trying to improve them. Nobody is born with a green thumb. Nobody. I don't care who you are. You may get lucky when you're young and you're inexperienced. If you're really lucky, you've seen someone garden and you're mimicking what they're doing. But for the most part, we all fail. We all fail. And some of us fail miserably. We lose entire crops of stuff. Some of us, we've lost everything in certain years. And a real gardener, a really good, true gardener, will take that mistake, not look at it as something like a failure. I'm a failure. No, you don't look at it as I'm a failure. You look at it like, wait a minute. I did this, and this. What did I do differently? What should I do differently? And the next year comes around and you try a different order, a different pattern. You don't use a certain chemical or a certain this, or you use a different type of plant, or you modify whatever it was you were doing the year before to try to make it work. And sometimes it takes 6 or 7 years before you figure out what it was you did wrong that first year. I know with me, I had that problem for a really long time. Every time it wasn't an outdoor gardening, it was a house plant, but it was the jade plant. I don't know why, but I'd kill it, and I'd kill it, and I'd kill it. And finally, it just dawned on me that the soil that I use for all my other houseplants, I cannot use on my jade. For some reason, I just can't use it. And so I had to go with more of a sandy soil instead of going with something that has a lot of organic matter in it. What was happening was the moisture in the water was not leaving the plant fast enough, and so therefore the roots and the trunk and everything would rot. But it took me a long time to learn that. Yeah, I mean, it's just, and then when you find something that works for you, you stick with it. I mean, if you're good at it and it works, you keep doing it and try to improve what you've done. You can always do better. You can always get better. You can always get stronger. It can always get worse too if you're not paying attention to what's going on. So it's like my tomato bush. It's way tall now. It's the First Lady tomato. It's a hybrid, and unfortunately, it's a hybrid. I wish it was an heirloom, but it's not. And I've tried to, I've taken the seeds and I've tried to get something really close to it, but I can't seem to manage to do that. I'm still trying. I'm not going to stop because I love that tomato. I just wish it was an heirloom and not a hybrid. But that's something completely different. I grow it every single year because it works for me, and I'm good at growing it. And I've tried other stuff. I've tried the purple passion beefsteak tomato. Epic fail. I mean, I've tried growing tomatoes in 5-gallon buckets. For me, it's an epic fail. They don't get very big. They don't produce. Peppers, on the other hand, I can grow peppers all day long in 5-gallon buckets. But tomatoes, they've got to be in the ground. It's something I've learned. They've got to be in touch with the earth. And, I'm a strong believer that, the ground is alive. And there's so much going on underneath the surface that it's so hard to comprehend. And the plants get it. They understand it. You plant something in a pot, it's going to do half as well or less than what it would be if it was in the ground. Just because there's something else going on there. There's energy, there's life, there's bacteria, there's something else there that a pot isn't going to give you. So, okay, I've been rambling on and on. 15 minutes, almost 16 minutes. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer, like I said before, if you don't make it to this live video, you can leave it down below in the comment section and hit me. If you've got a question you want to know, I'm really curious to hear them and give you my feedback and what I think and how I feel about it. So, go for it! Let's see. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself. I know, I'll talk about myself. Actually, I want to talk more about my gardening life. Ooh. Hi! It's Supermom. What is your favorite thing to grow? Oh, good question. What is my favorite thing to grow? Oh, wow. That, that's a hard question. I'd have to say my favorite thing to grow is anything I can eat. Oh, no, wait. I retract that. Anything that I can enjoy watching grow. I know it's not a specific thing because there's so many things I like to grow. I love growing the basics. I love growing tomatoes, potatoes. I love growing peppers, especially the sweet non-bell peppers. Those are my all-time favorites to grow. But it's not so much what I'm growing, I guess, is the fact that I'm growing something. The fact that I planted a seed or put a plant in the ground and I've watched it grow up and develop and become something more, something better. It's to watch the evolution, watch the progress. That, I think, is what I enjoy to grow. I enjoy growing something that will give me the feeling that I did that. I nurtured that. I took care of it. I loved it. If it gives me something in return, like fruit or a vegetable or something I can eat, that's an extra benefit. But yeah, I have to say it's definitely something that gives me nutrients in the soul. Good question. Oh my gosh. Now, to give you a actual answer, because I know you want an actual plant. I would have to say my all-time favorite thing to grow just had to be the Carolina Reaper. I never got any fruit off of it, but it was fun. I grew it outside, and then I washed it off, brought it in the house, and I put it in a pot, and it grew for a while, and it died off, and it grew for a while, and it died off, and then I put it in a bonsai dish, and I grew it for a while, and it died off, and then finally it died. But I got a bunch of flowers. I never got any fruit off of it, and it's definitely something I plan on growing again. So it's a very good question. Thank you. I have been here on YouTube for years, since 2009, and I've experienced a lot of ups and downs. It's hard to come on to a platform like this. Oh, coming back from Vietnam. Cool. It's hard to It's hard to come onto a platform like this on a regular basis and always bring something new to the table. And you know, I've got over 500 subscribers, and that's cool. I love that. But I've got the loyal, like, 25 people that are there all the time. They watch all my videos, and they're always there. And the reason I keep coming back, because I keep wanting to leave. Part of me just wants to just pull away and leave, because it is so... It's something else in my life that takes time, that I could be devoting that time to something other. But it gives me time to reflect and to be able to look back and say, oh yeah, I did that. Oh, I remember doing that. I did grow that one year and I didn't like it. I'm not going to grow it again. It also gives me the ability to connect with people on a different level that I never would have been able to have a relationship or connect with. Great example, a real good friend of mine here on YouTube, Babs. She has, she's been a real friend and someone that I can talk to and bounce things off of, and you know, giving me both positive and not so positive feedback. And just, it's been one heck of a relationship. It's been wonderful. JT Bear, who now is huge. He's got a huge following here on YouTube. Thousands, I think it's like 12,000 subscribers or something crazy. But I remember I was here before he was. And I remember when he very first started out and watching his videos, you know, him in Canada with his aquaponics and just doing what he loved to do and being who he is, and being able to talk with him also through social media outside of YouTube. And it has been just awesome. Another one is Revto. I call him Mr. T. Same thing, you know, he's I think he started about the same time I did, or maybe just a little bit before I did. But you know, another great person, a great soul, someone wonderful to talk to and hang out with. And so those are the people, those are the kinds of people, I should say, that keep bringing me back. As most of you know, I suffer from depression, and it gets pretty bad sometimes. It gets really bad sometimes, where I just want to shut the whole world out and not talk to anyone, not see anyone, not have anything to do with anyone, and I can't control it. It's just gets to the point where I just complete shutdown. And this last time, and I don't think he knows it, but this last time, Trollforge is the one who pulled me out and made me say, okay, all right, I got to keep going. Because these people in the world of YouTube are some of the most loving, caring people I've ever met in my life. And without YouTube, I would never have been able to be in contact with them. My little world I live in, you know, I don't see anybody. Not really. I mean, my job allows me to go out and do and see people, but I don't actually get to see anybody. And it's crazy. It's really crazy, because it's just, I can be in my own mind for 5 or 6 days, really, and not have an adult conversation once. And when that happens, I get quite lost. Yeah, anyways. Another question. Um, Life is very short and very precious. Uh, no garden in the year. Oh, it's disappearing. Why is it? Oh, don't come back. Come back. Oh, darn. Um, let's see. Yeah. Yeah. It's just life is life is really short. Really, really short. I was um I was how old was I? I was 17 when I first found a lump in my neck. And I went to the doctor and he felt the lump and he's like, it's just a calcium buildup. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. It'll go away. Well, 2.5 years went by and nothing happened. And I finally, I talked to the doctor multiple times. And I finally said, you know what, I got to get a second opinion. Well, I got a second opinion and it turned out to be Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it was so bad, I was on my way to the deathbed and didn't even know it. So I've been down that road. I understand the fight. From the moment I was diagnosed, there was another 2.5 years before I even could say I'm fine. You know, I had to put on a brave face for my family and my loved ones in order to keep getting the support that I needed to move down the road. But I realized at that moment that the world was not as I perceived it. There's so much more to it than what's directly in front of us. It's just been this constant learning about who I am as a person and the realization behind that of life is short, life is precious, and someday I won't have mine, and it could be any time. I'm 38 years old. I could have a massive heart attack tomorrow. So I want to do everything I can to live as long as I can. And with the Back to Eden garden, it gives me the stability. It gives me I put the hard work in early, and then for a long period of time, it maintains itself. And then about 7-8 years down the road, you got to put more wood chips on top. Not as much, but you got to put more. And then that time is longer the next time around, and then the time is longer. So as that soil builds and it creates more nutrients and more depth. Good morning, Simon. Or good evening, I guess, for you. It builds more and more structure and more health, which sustains the yard and the garden, which makes it easier on me, especially when I get old or older. You know, someday, I hope to be in my 80s or my 90s and be healthy and happy and still be able to come out here in the garden. But the truth of the matter is, I may be crippled at 70 and not be able to walk, not be able to do much. And so by putting the groundwork in now, while I'm young and healthy enough to be able to do it, then I know that I'll reap the benefits later down the road and be able to do it later down the road as well. So, yeah, life is short, and you have to touch the people that you meet on a daily basis and make a change that moment. You have to make them smile or make them click that you're there. The problem with the society we live in now and the children of the world now is nobody makes eye contact, nobody talks, nobody holds hands, there's no human interaction anymore, no sincerity anymore. And it's such a shame to watch the world turn this way. And I'm sure every generation before us all felt the same way. Oh, the younger generation, they're effing it all up. The younger generation. But I think it's different now. I think now that social media is in place, technology is in place, I think instead of bringing us closer together, which is what it was supposed to do, I think in actuality it's pulling us further apart. And a great example of this, I love my daughter. She is absolutely amazing. I'm talking about my 17-year-old. She'll sit in a room with somebody and not make one word of communication verbally or one eye contact. But she'll send a photo or she'll send a text message to that person. You take the phones away from this generation, you take their technology away from them, and they won't know how to function. Kids today, they don't know how to count money. If someone hands them a $50 bill and says, I need change for, I don't know, $14.32, they wouldn't be able to count that back to them. They have to rely on the technology of the computer to be able to do that for them. So it's just a disservice. It's not teaching them anything. And if you think they're teaching that in schools now, guess what? They're not. It's not being taught anymore. There's so much that's not being taught anymore. And a big part of me thinks it's on purpose. But that's a whole nother train tracks going that way. Yeah, so life is short. Life is precious. Simon, you're here with me. You have any questions for me? Anything that you've ever kind of wondered or anything? Any questions? I'm curious to hear you have a question, because I've been watching your channel for a very long time, and slowly evolve, and you've moved into the neighbor's yard, and so I'm curious if you have anything for me, if you're curious about anything. Gardening puts me in touch with the earth. Now, when it comes to religion, and I'll only touch on it really briefly, because I know that you didn't come here for that. But when it comes to that, I grew up LDS, or Mormon, and that was my life, my childhood, it's just the way I was raised. And their thought process is, you marry someone within the church, you have children, you replenish the earth, go out and fill the earth with people that are followers. And I was told when I got diagnosed with cancer, I fell away from the church a little bit as a teenager. And then when I was diagnosed with cancer, I started coming back to the church. And I was told by the church that I was going to be drawn closer to the Lord through this process, and it was a way for the Lord to get to know me and all this kind of stuff. And through the 2.5-year process of that happening, I found that I was getting further and further away, not closer. And I had a lady, when I went to Fred Hutch in Seattle and had my stem cell transplant, I had a lady come into my room, and she basically put me under hypnosis, which I strongly believe worked. It's weird. I can't explain it. I know that the stuff you see on the stage or whatever, I think most of that's fake, but this was different. This was really different. So she hypnotized me, and what she did is she told me that everything was going to be fine. There was nothing to worry about. She told me that the next few months, the journey that I'm going to go on will open my mind and bring clarity to my life. She told me that when I get to the other side, and she called it a veil, there's a veil in front of you, and when you step through the veil, your eyes will be open to what's really around you, and you will comprehend and understand the true meaning of life and who you are and how you got here. And of course, I'm in this trance-like state. I didn't respond, I just listened. And 2 months later, I am sitting in my apartment, done with all my treatment and everything, getting ready to go home. And I'm laying there and I'm watching TV. And this movie's playing over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, this is the shittiest freaking movie I've ever seen. It was about New York and how these buildings falling down. And then it dawned on me. And it was like this light came on. And it was almost like I stepped through that veil at that moment. And clarity was there. I wasn't in a fog anymore. It was just this instant. And I'm looking at the television and I'm realizing that what I am seeing on the TV is not a movie. It's legitimately happening, what I'm watching. And of course, the disbelief is gone. I'm watching it like, oh my gosh, now what do we do? What's going on? And I'm watching the buildings come down, and that was the moment the veil was lifted. And from that moment forward, I've been looking for answers. I've been looking for someone to tell me the way it really is, what's really going on. Hold that thought. Yes. I will. I'll be there in just a minute. Or 5. So I've been on this path to discover truth in all things. To try to discover honesty in all things. And part of the reason I keep stepping away from YouTube, or keep wanting to step away from YouTube, and this will probably get my channel shut down by saying this, but I have done so much research and looked on so many different sides of it that basically everything in the world that we have observed for the last 25 to 30 years, either been told through social media, news, regular media, any of that stuff. It's all been orchestrated for us. And that's the biggest reason I fought so hard to get this property and so hard to get these wood chips in and so hard to do what it is that I'm doing here, because of the uncertainty in the world today. It is extremely scary. People with lots of money and a lot of power want to stay with lots of money and a lot of power, and they're doing all kinds of crazy things to do it. And I want to be able to provide for my family if the worst was to happen. And so that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I've been debating about sharing this with YouTube and my friends on YouTube, because whenever I put something on here, it's not just going to my friends, it's now on record, and it's now being noted someplace, or could be noted someplace, of what it is that I'm doing. So I've been very hesitant because I haven't known how to approach this topic or this situation, or even to talk about it or approach it. I did a podcast a while back, and I ended up deleting the podcast twice. I put it up, I deleted it, I redid it, and then I deleted it again because I was like, I can't put myself in that position. I have been working with people over the last 2 years, and yeah. So, anyways, the reason I do this is because I want security for my family. I want them to know that if something was to ever happen, it's taken care of. There's food outside. All you got to do is go out there and get it. And if you believe in chemtrails or not, that's totally, you're right to do. But if chemtrails are real, the crap they're spraying in the air, I don't want it in my food. And the cool thing is, this stuff acts like a filter. That crap will never get to the roots. And if it does, it'll be 4 or 5 generations down the road before I end up having to eat it or deal with it. I mean, it's bad enough that the fillings in our teeth, not the newer generation, thank goodness, but the older generation, have mercury in them. The off gas your entire life, and you wonder why your immune system is weak. Well, these people are poisoning us. They're making us sick because they can make money on us being sick. It's not a propaganda scheme. It's not a radical thing. It's not anything crazy. It's just what it is. There's this news and a lot. I don't care if you agree with this person or don't agree with this person. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you think what this person says is crazy, psychotic, weird, nuts, or not. It doesn't matter. In this country, we have what's called freedom of speech. It is the only country in the world that I'm aware of that has freedom of speech. And there are people in power, in my opinion, that want to take that away from us. Because that gives them, once that's gone, that gives them more power, more control. So they take down this person who has told a lot of truth and some not so much, but this person, because they want to have that control. If they're willing to take someone down for freedom of speech, then they're willing to go further. Who else are they going to take down? Who else are they going to stop? Who else are they going to say, no, you can't have, can't do, can't this, can't that? I'm honored to be on this platform, to be here at YouTube, and to be able to share with the world. It's a gift, or literally a gift, to be able to do this, because it's not my platform. I didn't spend any money building the website, building any of that stuff. They have opened up and said, here, have it, take it, this is yours. And I get that. I get that. This is their platform. This is their world. This is their thing. And if they don't want my channel on here, they can terminate it. They have the right to do that. But to manipulate stories and to manipulate the media and what we hear is really scary. They can tell us anything they want. And the problem is the majority of us will believe it because it's them who told it to us. Just because your mom told you Santa Claus, you believed it because it's your mom, right? Well, just because it's CNN or NBC or Fox News or any of these news or media outlets, and they're telling us something, we should always take it with a grain of salt. Always. Don't ever, and just because you get the same information from 4 or 5 different places that are the media, still can't take it, because most of these media companies are all intertwined with each other. And there's so much evidence where they will literally say the same script verbatim on all of these competitor channels. So you gotta really be careful what you fall into and what you believe. It's done on purpose, and it didn't happen overnight. This plan of what's going on has been going on now, well, before I was born, possibly before you were born. Actually, this has been going on since at least World War II. And I'm not going to use the word, but there is an underlying government. And the reason I'm not using the word is because if I do, my channel will probably get red flagged. But there's an underlying government that's under everything. It's got its fingers in everything. And you got to be careful. Be mindful of who's around you. So, y'all probably think I'm loony, I'm crazy, I'm mental, I'm out there, I've gone too far. Sorry. Back to gardening. That's what this channel is supposed to be. Although we've brought in cooking and we've brought in Romy, which, by the way, I can't get Romy. Romy is still at my parents' house, but I can't get my truck started. So I bought a new fuel pump for it. I got to put a new fuel pump in it and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I got to get Romy. And it's just still sitting there. It's covered up. It's fine. So, yeah. I want y'all to know that I love you very much. And I am so grateful and so thankful for your friendship. You guys mean the world to me. And I never thought all those years ago that I would ever really make a connection with people through this platform. I thought this was going to be just a place for me to document what it is that I'm doing in my yard and that kind of thing, and kind of be more of a keeping track of what's going on. I didn't realize that it was more than that when I first started, and I'm glad it is. So I've been going on and on and on and on Well, if there's any more questions, um, I got waffles to go make. It's Sunday mornings and the kids want waffles. So I will be going and doing that. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And if you come up with any questions or have any questions down the road, preferably gardening questions. Yes, yum. Leave them in the comment section below. And I love you. I love you all so very, very, very much. I hope you guys have yourselves a fantastic, fantastic rest of your week. I'm going to do this, I think, again next week. So if you have any questions that you think of during the week, either leave them in the comment section down here below or come join me next week, next Sunday, and we'll try to do this again as well. So throughout the week, I will try to give you an update and that kind of thing. I love you, buddy. And so I want to do coffee in the morning again with you. So there's things I want to do. There's things I want to bring my channel back to what it used to be when I first started. Well, not first started, but before we left the other house, where we take a walk through the garden every morning and we have coffee or tea with each other, and it's kind of where I want to go. I want to bring that back, and so we'll get there. It'll happen. So, all right, until next time. I love you. Bye for now.